Since you guys responded so well to the last Warband game, here's another one. This is one of my makeup games, and of an earlier round against Wicked, the Evermod, and you can tell the theme of his Warband just by looking at it. Every single round, he's bought another rogue idol that he's been able to. So besides his starting army, that's pretty much what he's got. So I'm going to be having my work cut out for me against 4 rogue idols. He's got a Night Goblin War Boss, a Rock Lobber here in the back, protected by some goblins, Orc Boar Boys with some squigs here as well, squig hoppers. And yeah, Orc Boys up front with some more goblins as well. Of course, my warband, you might have seen before, this is an earlier iteration, so we've got the Engineer here just on foot with no abilities. Master Engineer is, of course, John Hawk, the legendary mercenary captain. And he is astride in his steam tank, which I had named Belching Berthild. Forgot to mention that last time. We've also got a land ship here, mortar wagons. Gelden, the gold wizard, is out here hiding in the woods with Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. Gonna need that Plague of Rust along with this line of Free Company Militia to take on the idols, and of course some spearmen as well. I believe the name of this guy here is Snarglar Squigs Slapper, which is just an S tier name, not only because of the alliterations on the S letter specifically, but just in general. And I'm not sure 100%. I forgot to read Wicked's Warband backstory. Maybe he can give us a little sample of his Warband's backstory in the comments down below as my phone goes off. Anyway, let's go ahead and get things rolling. We're on the... this is Warpstone Crater. I forget what the specific name of the map is. There is a giant Warpstone meteor off there in the distance that we are fighting over, but let's see. John Hawk been tasked by his employers, got a contract to recover a giant ball of warpstone. Fortunately, it seems the idols have a similar intent. See here, Wicked's trying to take a little side approach here to possibly protect against as many missiles as possible. He was kind of deployed over on the far side as well. That does mean John is going to run through with his steam tank. Got a couple quick tear routes on some of these orc boys, but yeah, because of the impassable terrains here, there's a couple little patches of impassable terrain. It's actually going to somewhat break up my defense a little bit here. I do have the war wagons in a tight position, but he's got his cavalry out in space. Plenty of armor piercing there. You can see me dropping mortars and Searing Doom on that advancing force as the boars ride through the foreground, pursuing the war wagons. And yeah, the Free Company just lining up and getting ready to mass blast this thing in the butt. Yes. Steam Blast also coming in there. But man, one of the reasons why I love gunpowder units is they're just so cinematic. Look just amazing as the idol advances. We're going to throw a little Plague of Rust on him. Focus fire with all the Free Company as much as we can, at least. There's no long rifles in this build quite yet. It's in an earlier round, but rely on the land ship to act as a little bit of a blocker. I also don't have any cavalry here or in any later rounds, to be honest. Might take some Pistoliers at some point, but for the time being, we're going to use the land ship aggressively. You can see I detached the spears back here as well as the idols start to make contact in the front line. Snarglar lurking out in the distance, stalked, urging his idols forward. You can see the war wagons, most of them able to get to a safe position to get set up and keep shooting. One idol has been fairly well dealt with, been focus fired pretty well. The other 3, though, are all still quite healthy, so I'm going to have to keep things on the move. Little pigeon bomb there, blast out some of those goblins. They do a decent enough job. We also managed to push back most cavalry. Wicked does sneak one boar boy through, though, and they're going to definitely cause some problems here for the war wagons. As the idols, the march of the idols. It's absolutely spectacular. As the 4 of them are just having a grand old time in this front line. You can see the land ship pulls up in a position to keep firing. And we're going to see some more Searing Doom on these goblins here, who are trying to, or orc boys, spears rather, trying to use their anti-large to some effect. But right now it's all about these big single entities. Already the Free Company Militia front line is starting to crumble under the assault of the idols. Goblins and orcs following up, hoping to get some little sticky stabs in there. See the boys getting ready for another charge on some regrouping militia. The mortars don't have the best targets to shoot at, but they're still around, you know, helping to contribute, especially against multi-model units here. Any multi-model unit, pretty much, is a fair game at this point. But Landship, Master Engineer, also trying to use them as much as I can in melee to keep these multi-model units routed. So I feel like the 4 idols, if we can get them out in space by themselves, the guns should be able to tear them apart, no problem. But right now, things are definitely seeming a little bit dicey. We've still got some armor-piercing cavalry alive, chasing the war wagons. And yeah, spears mostly been running around in circles, but finally get a position where we've got quite a few boars kind of bogged down by the Free Company. They can get in and maybe drag a few of the unit models down as a cloud cover sort of shadows the battlefield there. But the war wagons continuing to work. I also don't have restock on any character at this point, so the ammunition that I have, I'm going to have to put to good use to make sure I can kill all of them. But right now, got one basically down, another one down to about half, so things are looking okay. This Master Engineer, though, Patchy, going to have to run for his life across the battlefield without a horse. Good thing he's faster than a rogue idol, honestly. I mean, he is very tired, but so is the rogue idol. But yeah, he's got to keep moving. That is going to kind of remove that rogue idol somewhat from the equation of the battle space. We'll be able to use other units to try and take these ones out. Here, this unit of war wagon mortars, though, did get tangled up in all the cavalry and infantry and everything else, and lost one of its unit models. Gets routed off here. He's definitely pushing as Snarglar commands his idols to cease chasing Patchy the Engineer, who can then turn and keep shooting himself. And it looks like this idol might try and get the land ship while it's sitting here idly, just unloading bullets in all directions. But the Orc and Goblin units here that are going to get a little bit separated from the idols now look like pretty easy pickings. The one idol that's left is basically about to start crumbling at this point, even though it is 1,000 weapon strength and insanely dangerous. Also only 45 armor. You know, the loss of armor as it gets damaged is pretty significant, so these Free Companies should be able to finish it off, honestly. But even still, the Landship and Steam Tank pull up. The Landship especially in this position here in the center where it can fire, you know, multiple broadsides in multiple directions. Very much like, for those of you guys who played, you know, either Napoleon or Empire Total War back in the day, the naval battles in that game, the positioning of your ships as far as the angles of fire that you get off of them was super important. And I do feel like the land ship, I mean, obviously has the main gun on the front, which is nice to face forward, but if you can get it in a position where it's more or less surrounded, it can fire on all sides, definitely going to be getting maximum efficiency from that unit. But now I'm going to have to use the land ship to tank a little bit. I'm almost out of ammunition on the wagons and on the land ship. The Master Engineer still got quite a bit left, and thankfully for me, Geldon's still alive. He's been dropping some Plague of Rust and Searing Dooms all over the place. In fact, we're going to drop another Searing Doom just there and a Plague of Rust at the same time. Actually, Searing Doom does some damage. Plague of Rust, now with the already debuffed armor, the Rogue Idol's down to only like 20 armor. Both of these ones are going to crumble as the rocks fall here. John Hawk claims victory over Snarglar's horde. I say horde. It's really just the idols, and it was definitely a fun one. You know, a little bit more of a meme game, a little bit silly to be fair, but that's part of the fun of Warband, right? Is people can do whatever they want, and I definitely respect Wicked going for, you know, such a strong theme build. It's definitely was a lot of fun to play against. Yeah, at the end of the day, definitely kept me on my toes, and actually, you know, I was pretty confident with my gun-based build going in. I'm like, it's a Rogue Idol-based build. I have a gun-based build. Clearly, I'm at advantage here, and I definitely think that was true. But overall, I still think Wicked put up a really good fight, and surprisingly was more difficult than I expected. I mean, the Free Company, they are adept at running for the hills, so they definitely did that with great aplomb here. War Wagons are the main carry, along with the land ship. Master Engineer himself actually doesn't get a ton of raw value, but definitely some nice chaff clearing, 200 kills, almost 20,000 damage dealt, tactically super important to do. And then the Empire Spearman also incredibly cost effective here, as you would expect with a lot of large units to fight. The cavalry for Wicked was maybe the one thing. He did a pretty good job getting them into the war wagons at times, was able to shut down like the mortar wagons and a few others, but ultimately didn't do quite enough to shut them down, obviously, by the end game. But still, I mean, even Landship ends up taking a pretty good amount of damage from those idols, even the short time it was in melee. So, yeah, I do feel like had he been able to catch maybe one unit of the war wagons, the actual like gun wagons, a little bit earlier in the battlefield, or battle time, I should say, maybe it would have turned out differently. Hard to say, but definitely a fun game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.